Good morning. I'm Josh Holton with the WMNF News headlines. After 2 weeks without new malaria cases, WMNF's Chris Young reports on Sarasota County and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's updates regarding the outbreak.
Sarasota saw its first case of malaria in late May. As of July 27th, there's been 7 cases of locally transmitted malaria, specifically in North Sarasota. All of the individuals have been treated and are recovering. Jamie Carson is the Director of Communications for Sarasota County.
Our mosquito management services team is working diligently and performing routine truck and aerial missions with a concentrated effort in obviously North Sarasota.
3 of the 7 cases occurred in people experiencing homelessness. For WMNF News, I'm Chris Young.
Yesterday, about a dozen activists gathered in protest of a plethora of changes in education by the Republican supermajority in the Florida State Legislature, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court's overturning of affirmative action.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay.
Ron DeSantis, go away.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay.
Ron DeSantis, go away.
Joseph Chari is leading that chant and is with the Students for a Democratic Society. He said that the Supreme Court, along with many conservative lawmakers, are wrong to ignore race in admissions.
I mean, they expect colleges to ignore race. All of a sudden, they want to ignore race when it comes to admissions, when it comes to all of these acts that have been put in to protect populations, but they don't. I mean, real life doesn't ignore race. You can't have cops that are shooting black kids here in Tampa, here all over the U.S. to ignore race, because race is a thing that they themselves know about and they themselves choose to act upon. Shame.
Shame.
I mean, they can't just ask reality to suddenly fall into one of their ideas that, oh, all races are equal, oh, the treatment toward all races in the U.S. are equal, because we know that's not true.
Chari also criticized new Florida State Board of Education benchmarks that paint slavery as having positive attributes.
Universities and student board of governors across the state and across the country have started erasing black history. I mean, just a week ago, apparently the board of governors for Florida decided that it would teach up to K-12 that some slaves benefited from slavery. Shame!
A statewide coalition of faith leaders has pledged to teach African American history after the uproar over Florida's new African American history standards. WMFE's Danielle Pryor reports the coalition aims to get at least 1,000 houses of worship to participate.
Nonprofit Faith in Florida is offering the free African American History Toolkit to leaders of every faith who want to teach their congregants Black history. The toolkit explores institutional and systemic racism. Miami pastor Ross Pierre plans to use the kit throughout the liturgical year.
The goal is definitely through preaching, definitely through our youth ministry. We have spiritual enrichment classes that we teach, and we'll definitely use information from the toolkit to do that.
The kits feature 11 units that take students from the history of the transatlantic slave trade up to recent protests against police brutality and mass incarceration. In Orlando, I'm Danielle Pryor.
Ex-President Donald Trump has now been accused of asking a staffer to delete camera footage that's related to his Florida classified documents case. Eric Tucker explains what the newly unsealed charges against the former president and his Mar-a-Lago property manager mean.
Former President Donald Trump has been hit with new charges in the classified documents investigation in Florida. He is accused of asking a colleague of his at Mar-a-Lago to delete surveillance footage at the complex. This is important because surveillance footage is what FBI investigators ultimately used to allege that they had probable cause to believe a crime was committed, namely that boxes had been moved in and out of the storage room in an effort to obstruct the investigation. And now, a month after the original charges, we now have new charges accusing Trump of obstruction and a new additional count of willful retention of national defense information.
And despite that news, Donald Trump will appear along with rival Ron DeSantis for the first time at the same campaign event in early voting Iowa at a pivotal moment for the Republican presidential candidates. Trump will be at an Iowa Republican Party fundraiser today. Meanwhile, DeSantis has been working to reset his stalled campaign. He returned to Iowa yesterday for a 2-day bus tour of the leadoff GOP voting state. It's warm and sunny in the Tampa Bay area. Highs today in the lower 90s, overnight lows in the mid 70s. Rain expected after 2 o'clock. I'm Josh Holton with the WMNF News headlines.
This is The Scoop, recorded at WMNF Tampa.